What's up, guys? It's day two of the studio repatch, rebuild, rewire, whatever you want to call it. I'm a little nervous because this is the day where I unpatch everything from my patch bay in that sidecar rack where essentially my entire system has lived up to this point. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just yank all the cable. I'm going to organize it by length, by connector type, et cetera, et cetera. Make any notes about things that are special to a specific piece of gear. And then from there, I'm going to unscrew everything from that rack and migrate it over to the larger piece of rack furniture, according to my plan. And then that should be everything I do today. I don't know if I'm going to have anything to necessarily talk about while I do it. So I may talk about something else. I may just roll some footage and fast forward. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, here we go. Wish me luck.
All right, guys. So you can see here the back of my patch bay rack. A lot of cables. I initially tried to explain everything that was going on here, but suffice to say, I am unplugging stuff. I start with the analog connections from my RME interface, which I'm talking about right there. And then I move on to the digital connections. Um, that's me pulling the MADI out and explaining the differences in the two different kinds of fiber optic ends you can end up with a fiber optic cables. Um, yeah, and here I am talking about word clock, how I prefer to use that for clocking my devices together as opposed to using things natively within ADAT and MADI. You certainly can. Those both carry clock, but I just like using the word clock since I have it and I have the cables to do it. Um, Everything is synced to the RME. That's my master clock. So everything is set to follow that. Here you can see I'm pulling some lines and I'm just kind of labeling what they are as attached to the console on the other side in case I'm able to reuse them on the other side. A lot of the patches, the snakes and stuff, are not going to be long enough for me to actually use. So I'll probably have to buy new snakes or make them or something to that effect. Um, this happens all the time when you're doing stuff like this. um, I tend to keep my eyes open on places like eBay and things like that for used ones because often somebody's going through something much like I am. They're repatching, they find that they don't have a use for it anymore, or maybe somebody's selling all their old analog PA gear or something like that. And a lot of times you can pick this stuff a lot cheaper per foot than you can brand new. And most of the time, I think I've only bought stuff once where I had dead channels, and it really wasn't that much of a loss. I was able to work around it. Um, yeah, just pulling and labeling right now. You're gonna see a lot of that. We'll just kind of let that roll. So also, I'm kind of talking about the universal audio uh, unit down there, which has inserts which I was pointing out initially, which are cool. Instead of using the actual line input, you can just wire up the inserts, and you can always mult off the send. So it's essentially has two line outputs, and then it also has four line inputs that go to conversion. So the unit is capable of doing 8 channels of conversion. This right here is just all the short patches I pulled, not including all the snakes and stuff. So it gives you some idea of what's actually going on back there. It's a lot. All right, here we are back at the front of the rack again, and I'm just pulling stuff. Pretty much always, whenever I'm taking things out of a rack, I start from the top and work to the bottom, letting the weight of everything help me. The opposite is true when I'm building a rack. I usually start at the bottom and work up to the top. Same reason. Uh, there, I'm talking about the patch bays and stuff. I'll go into more detail about all that stuff on another video. I didn't really like the way the audio turned out in that recording, so I'm just voicing over it. Um, One thing I will say, though, that I mentioned here is that getting a electric screwdriver that has torque settings on it is just integral, um, in my opinion. And not just using a drill or something. So having those torque settings will keep you from stripping screws and making sure that everything kind of has a uniform torque on the way in. It's just a better practice. There, I'm kind of talking about the universal audio and how I like it. It's a cool interface. Same thing with the art. That art is actually the art DMPA2 is actually the first piece of outboard gear I ever bought, coming up on probably 15 years ago, and it still works like a champ. It's actually gone up in value since I bought it. I bought it new, I think, for less than $300, and now they sell new for close to 500, I think. So, that's a good return on investment. All right, so here we are back at the front of the rack. You can see I'm just dropping in the patch bays now. Um, Not really much to explain there. Um, I've kind of organized the thing, where I've got basically on the leftmost um, bay column, whatever you want to call it, is it's mostly compressors, but there's an EQ, there's that graphic EQ, and there's a set of gates there as well. Um, just because I'll probably be using those EQs to key the input of gates or sidechain, maybe some of the compressors or something. So I've just kind of got that all over in one area. Um, this is the point where I realized I wasn't paying attention to my own guide well enough, and I'm gonna have to slide everything down. And also, this is a point where I thought I had stripped out a screw. It turns out that I was just using the wrong size of bit for the situation, which you'll see me mess around with here until I figure it out. Nobody's nerfect. You know what I'm saying? Um, I'm leaving it in because you know, we're all fallible, and sometimes we make silly mistakes by you know instead of paying attention to everything you're doing, making a video. But yeah, you can see at this point I've figured it out, and now I'm using the correct bit size, and everything's going the way it should be. Uh, Putting in the last rack power unit there. I like that. I like those uh, old monster power units. They have like staged power on and all sorts of stuff. I don't think they make them anymore, but I think Black Lion kind of like basically like took the exact design and now they make something similar. Um, and just about here is where my screwdriver runs out of batteries. Yep, that's it. It's the battery ran out of batteries. So I had to put it back on the charger. And this is kind of just an end view. You can see, now I'm talking here. Well, I've got to put the universal audio in still. It's going to go up there on that rack. And then, oh, all of that stuff needs to be slid down by a unit. And then I have a power amp that I'm going to put in, and that power play. The power amp is to push some NS10s that are here in the studio, which have been in a closet for a couple of years. And then that power play is used to push my headphone monitoring system on the other side. Um, the P16s, they're pretty common to see around studios these years. Although I can say that I was one of the first people to buy them. I've had that for probably 12 years, 10 years, 10 or 12 years. So basically, right when they first came out, alongside the X32. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. That's day 2 for you.